and which led to us in Florida, it was like improving in fitness helped me improve all the other areas of my life as well. So that was more motivating. And it felt like fitness, since it pulled me out of the rut, I think that's almost how I became so passionate about it in a sense, if that, yeah, that makes sense.
Boom. All right. We are recording. Today I have on Trent McCloskey. He is a professional internet marketer by trade. He's now a professional fitness coach as well. He's starting his own brand, TrentMcCloskey.com, where he does fitness consulting. Mostly, I think you're doing outreach on Instagram at the moment, right?
That's correct. But first, how you doing, brother? How you been?
I've been good. Pretty good, man. Just grinding out on this. How about you?
Yeah, likewise, just putting my head down for a little bit. I think that initial like sacrifice, for the long-term success is very much needed in an enjoyable way, obviously. But yeah, just been staying busy, man, but good. I mean, we haven't chatted in a while since like, I don't know, Denver almost, a little bit here and there, but yeah, it's been Denver, which seems like so close, but also so far away,
Yeah. It was like we were all in like different mind states. That seems like so far, man. Yeah.
Yes.
I know. Yeah. Back then, I think you hadn't quite started your own personal brand at that point, right?
Exactly. Going back, I mean, I've had my first personal brand way back. It was GTM Fitness. It was my initials. And that's when I was also doing some, were you aware of that? I mean, I think that's whenever we first met back in
GTM Fitness. Yeah.
Yeah. Cause that was back where we were in like a private Facebook group learning like the beginning kind of skills of marketing and everything. And that was just an awesome thing, which soon led to, Florida, going down there for a little bit, where I think I learned, it was a great 2 years working with a company. I'm sure everyone, like the listeners and you, familiar with Kino Body and Truth Nutra and everything like that. Definitely learned a lot in those 2 years regarding marketing and everything like that, which also led me to like another personal brand during that time for a little bit, which was Ectogain. Still had that domain if anyone wants it, because I'm not going to do anything with it. But I honestly, I think that name is I was very happy with it, and I was a little upset in a good way whenever we decided to focus more in on that company we were with, to kind of shut it down. Which definitely made sense at the time, but just Ectogain, like ectomorph, being that skinny guy, and then like gaining muscle. I was like, how much better could it get? You know what I mean? Yeah. But damn. So if there's any like guys out there wanting to build a skinny guy business, that's your name right there.
Hit Trent up for the URL.
Exactly. I got that parked on GoDaddy or something like that. Yeah. So after that, working with that company for a little bit, but then after the 2 years, dove into a little bit of the cryptocurrency stuff for a little bit. And that was a lot of fun, but I still feel like that's a little bit of ahead of its time, essentially, just with all like the regulations and things of that nature. Like I'm still a big fan. I love cryptocurrency. I still feel like it's going to be a big thing in the future, but it's just like a little bit before its time, I think, for like more of, I guess, this style of business that we were trying to build as more of like the educational of like, okay, like what are these? There's Bitcoin, but like what are the thousands of altcoins, essentially? Just more like the educational site and like how to set up your wallets and all that stuff. I think just like a little bit before its time. So then that led me after that. And this is whenever we were in Denver together. I think it was almost that transition of like pretty much like realizing that and realizing like, okay, like we have to at least like go a bit of a different direction for the time being. And which almost led to kind of a more more of like a group business with my two other buddies, and obviously all of our buddies, not just my Tim and Austin Floyd, more so of teaching like more mindset skills and lifestyle habits, for success and everything, learning those higher leverage skills and everything. And then, but then that kind of was like the split, and we decided that's like, okay, let's do our own thing. And that's what then led me into building my personal brand, TrentMcCloskey.com. And I think, it was like one of those points of like, what am I, almost diving deeper, like what am I truly passionate about? And also like, what are my skills? It's like finding that balance, because I wanted to do something that I was passionate about, because if I was going to like work at something every single day, I didn't want to like hate what I was doing. So fitness, it's always been a part, even like learning all the marketing, doing all that stuff. It's fitness and health have always played a major role in my life. I mean, I think that's how it got started on everything, essentially. And I decided to go down the fitness route and build my personal brand, but also in the fitness space, essentially. That makes sense.
Yeah. No, that's cool. I was going to start off with a simpler question for you, but you went right into the, how'd you get to this point, the life story. That was great.
Well, see,
for you guys.
that's the thing. I'm sorry for interrupting you, man. It's like,
oh, you're good.
You get me. I'll start going on tangents and rambling. So please, like, feel free to like pause me and be like, okay, why that thing, or like what this thing? Because if you get me going, I'll start just going.
No, that's good, man. We're here to hear you, man. Hear your story. That's interesting. For you guys that don't know, though, me and Trent did work together for a short period of time in 2015, about 6 months. We were at the same startup. It was a digital media startup. We worked together as the first round of employees. I think for both of us, that was some of our first professional marketing work. Yes. So Trent is kind of unique in the fitness industry in that he does all his own marketing. He's also a professional marketer and a professional in fitness. So really interesting. Check out his stuff because of that. You're kind of a specialist at design, right? Weren't you the one doing a lot of the design for a couple of those companies you work for?
Yeah. I think it's more, and that's the funny thing too. I'm not okay. You had another good point too that I want to touch on. Like whenever we first went down for that startup company, that was a point where I ended up dropping out of college because I wanted to. That was the thing too. Like I was always decent at school, but there was always something like there was something that always turned me off about the traditional route of going, high school, going to college, and then getting that degree and then doing a certain vocation. Well, I was like, well, what do I truly want to do? And I think I always had a bit of an entrepreneurial mindset, like even back in like 7th grade, whenever I asked my parents for like a cell phone, because all the kids were getting them, they were like, oh, we just don't have the money for it. And then obviously I didn't grow up like super, super poor, but there was always that stress of money hanging over us. Like, oh, we got to pay the bills. We got to do this and that. So it was like, well, if I want these things, I have to go out and kind of get them myself. So I think that was like really training my mind in that way from a young age. So I like went around the neighborhood and I had like all the neighbors having me cut their grass. I had like my little grass cutting business, everything. And then I saved money to buy like, I think it was, what was it? It was like the iPhone 3G. Back in 7th grade.
Oh,
like,
nice.
3G. Like that was, oh my gosh, that's so
big,
old now.
That's big.
I got the 10 and everything. It's crazy. But so going that route and kind of like, there's always like, I knew I kind of always wanted to own my own business, and I didn't necessarily I didn't do well, I guess, maybe taking orders in a sense, like not like going against the man, but I guess I definitely did not like the whole corporate route of, getting dressed up in a suit and tie and like, having these like presentations to a boss and like all that kind of thing. Just that whole corporate kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so that kind of led me to, and then I think back at the time, I think there was a lot of things in my life where I didn't feel like I had any control. And that kind of led me, like, we're going to go like a little deep for a minute.
Let's do it, man.
Like around like the 7th grade mark, like before the whole iPhone thing, I fell into like a bit of like serious depression, and just from like getting bullied and teased and all that kind of thing. So I think fitness was like the lowest hanging fruit that I could grab to at least feel like every day I had some kind of purpose, or I was able to like better myself each and every day, essentially. Because everything else wasn't making sense at the time, because I think prior to that, months leading up to that, I got really sick and I was like missing a ton of school, and like the work was piling up, and like I was hating all the classes, and this, on top of getting bullied and teased, and that just like sent me down.
Everything else felt out of control.
Exactly. So like fitness was that lowest hanging fruit. And then after, getting good at that, learning, obviously making a ton of mistakes and all that, so we can dive further deeper into fitness in a moment. But it was like, that did give me some kind of improvement, I felt empowered. And after having like a transformation in that, which soon led to like me finding out about Kino Body and then starting my own brand, and then which led to us in Florida, it was like improving in fitness helped me improve all the other areas of my life as well. So that was more motivating. And it felt like fitness, since it pulled me out of the rut, I think that's almost how I became so passionate about it, in a sense, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it was like that catalyst to have that life change overall. I mean, I can relate 100% because like probably around the same time in high school, probably like way back now, like sophomore year of high school, I had the same experience, man. I came in when I was like a freshman maybe, and I would see people lifting. I'm like, why do they do that? Like, who wants to lift weights? Yeah. Once I started, I got so addicted, man. After like 6 months, I was completely addicted for the next like 5 to 10 years of my life. Like,
yeah,
so life changing.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, you're in incredible shape. Like, literally, like, even like Austin and Tim and I, we always talk about it. Like, dude, like, you were like jacked as fuck.
I appreciate the compliment, but yeah, I feel like we're always saying that about you. We're like, Trent is such a freak, man. Like,
I know it's always I guess that personal kind of thing. But it's like, yeah, like, Ian, man, I say want those calves, want those biceps, but but yeah, for real, I think it definitely, like, I think that's probably like why a lot of people like turn to fitness, where like it is like one of those things where it's a nice low hanging fruit to grab, where you can actually start to make small improvements and start to better your life in that way. Because once you learn in the gym, for example, like that, if you're not getting results and you finally learn the lesson of like, you have to actually be consistent, even if you're following like a less optimal plan, you're not going to get results if you don't follow that plan throughout. And once you learn that and actually get results, like, okay, well, there's that discipline and consistency that I learned in the gym. You can then apply that to business and other things in your life to also get the same results, essentially. So I guess like that's also what I found really interesting in fitness, because it was something, it almost just like teaching you life lessons at the same time.
Yeah, no, it definitely does. I think there's a few avenues in life where you can learn these kind of, lessons that transcend their, I guess, domain. Fitness is definitely one, man. It teaches you so much about like consistency, like showing up, just putting in the work. It's like, there's so many lessons, man.
Yes, exactly.
One thing I'd love to get into though, is you talked about, let's go deep a little bit. And one thing you had on your site that it interested me is you have a really great about page. If you get a chance, you want to check out somebody, you need to copy an about page, check out Trent's on trentmccloskey.com. Awesome My Story page. And one of the things you say is, throughout these 2 years, I underwent a huge wave of personal growth with my brothers, Austin Floyd and Tim Berzins. I practiced meditation, which helped me dig deep inside and come to terms with limiting beliefs, insecurities, and everything in between. Of course, this is an ongoing process, but in a much better headspace now. What happened during those 2 years changed me so much. What exactly was it that happened? Like, what kind of transformation did you go through? How did that happen? What was the catalyst? Was it just being with a bunch of guys who were growth mindset oriented? What happened?
Okay, that's awesome. There's a lot of things in there too. So I think, all right, starting at the top. And again, like if I start going down a rabbit hole,
you go.
So I think the main thing that also can relate even prior to those 2 years, and it's more so, I think people get caught up in taking risks, but forgetting about the risks that they're currently taking. Essentially, they almost become blind to them. Like, let's just say someone's in a corporate job or something like that, or a job that they don't really like. They maybe get blind that they are essentially taking a risk. Like, what if all of a sudden, like, the company pivots or fails and they have to either get rid of the position or it completely goes, underwater and they lose their job. But doing that every single day, you kind of become blind to, like, you're actually still doing something that could be a risk. But since it's so consistent every day, you just forget about it. And then they get too caught up in, like, oh, like, what if I do quit my job and start this thing? Or what if I like try to do this or that? And that scares them. And I think there's always those fears. And like, to this day, like, I'm not saying I beat all my fears through that personal growth, which I'll hop into, but it's like first realizing that. And I think that set the stage of just making sure, like, really weighing my decisions properly and really trying to follow like where I want to go, which then obviously led me to Florida, because it was like, well, I don't, going the traditional route is, or just didn't really resonate with me. So realizing that going to college is still essentially a risk, because you can go to college for the 4 years and then just get a degree, but then still struggle to find a job, essentially. One of my best childhood friends, Jordan, he hasn't found a job. He graduated college last year, but he's still struggling to find the thing that he went to school for engineering, but he's still struggling to, like, he has the skills and everything, but he's still struggling to find that position. You know what I mean? So it's like everything, even though it might seem safe and everyone is doing a certain particular thing, there's still risk involved. So it's almost like having the mindset of like, everything's almost a risk, or risk might sound like a nasty word, but essentially, you know what I'm saying? It's almost like there's still choices to be made no matter what you're doing. Even though if like the majority is going some way, there's still some risk involved. So I think that kind of spurred the whole more entrepreneurial mindset and getting down into Florida. So during those 2 years, but you know what I'm saying by that? Does that all make sense?
I do, because I think what I'm hearing is like, you're saying that, for a lot of people who, like, for instance, stay in a career path that maybe they haven't consciously chosen, it's like you, by not making a decision to like assess that choice and just letting things happen, like life's little stream carry you along, like inadvertently, you're not considering any of your other options and you're not consciously picking that. So it's like all the risks associated with that option, you haven't really considered. You don't really know how to get out of that situation if you're in it, because you haven't consciously sat down and been like, wait, what's my end goal? Why am I doing this? Is that actually going to take me there?
Exactly. Yes. 100%. Yeah. So it's like just knowing that like almost whatever you choose to do, it's like you have to see almost like maybe pretend and imagine like what is the end game? Like what are you going down that path to do essentially? And then if you get to an end goal and you're like, I don't know if I really like that, well, you might have to do the other option that might be a little bit more scary. But like whenever you weigh those risks out, like, and then if you have faith in that and go all your cards in that one thing, which kind of helps doing that if you actually realize the risks of something else and knowing that you might not be your happy.
Dude, I totally agree. That's one of my emails is about that. One of the email course for this site is literally about that. Yeah, you have to weigh. You can't go all in until you consider what could happen along that path.
Which, dude,
you just will have it spinning in the back of your mind, like what could happen?
Yes, exactly. And I freaking love that email course. Like you killed it. So like anyone listening, like if you haven't been through Ian's email course, hop in that. Like it's just how you set everything up and like this, how it builds and everything, and how you get someone thinking about like what they're currently doing and how to like start down that path, because it can be like very frightening and scary. So finally circling around to those 2 years of like that growth, I think like in those 2 years, everything prior to those 2 years built upon pushing that growth, if that makes sense. So it's like realizing that I started my first personal brand, GTM Fitness. And of course, like, I had a couple clients, I wrote a program, like that kind of thing, but I had no knowledge of like any kind of marketing, realizing that I needed the marketing push that growth for marketing. Because like the reality is like, if you are starting to like build your business, especially like in the beginning, and if it is just by yourself, like you have to have the skills and the right mindset to do so. And I felt like all the struggles, I think me, especially Austin and Tim, and you yourself, even like whenever we run into problems, I think we built the habit of like, okay, there's a solution out there because someone has obviously did something that all of us are trying to do, essentially. Like it's already been done before. The struggles have already been fixed. So like almost building that mindset of like, there's a solution to your problem. Like you may seem stressed, you may seem frustrated right now, but like taking that step back and realizing like, okay, there's probably a solution out there. You can go out and fix it, essentially. So that kind of led into like, okay, well, I have maybe like insecurities of just, maybe from the past of like getting bullied or things of that nature, or insecurities about like myself and not like fully loving myself, or being afraid to talk on video or things of that nature. So something that helped with that was meditation. Exactly. Because I felt like meditation, like not to get all like ooey gooey and spiritual and everything, but meditation, like almost like just more so reflecting on my thoughts, reflecting on my emotions, and letting that guide me and give me answers to what I'm feeling and what I'm getting in my life. Because like whenever you can take a step back and reflect and meditate on those things, and if you don't like it, well, and then realizing that you have the power to change and create your own reality. That might sound like a little gooey or almost a little. No,
I agree.
Yeah. Totally. But it's like this, and then like, which also ties into those limiting beliefs, because it's definitely, it could be very scary. It's like, it's still, and especially like whenever you are starting something and whenever you like really start pushing and going, you're not necessarily going to know like what is happening at all the time. You know what I mean? Like I think that's like definitely a generic saying, like, but it's definitely true. Like whenever you're in it going, like everything might not make sense, but just having that faith to keep going forward, that's whenever you really start to see results and stay consistent over time. So like meditation helped me a lot with that, because I could dive deeper and like realize that the things that I thought were limiting were not so limiting. And like, or even like just stepping outside of my comfort zone more, because like getting used to that habit. And so I can grow more and more. But I think personally a lot, the insecurities and this like fear and self-doubt, that really hurt me. And like all those negative thoughts, like just constantly going on and on in my head, which then meditation helped a lot with that, but also just like, and then becoming more aware of those thoughts and knowing that I could focus my attention on things that matter most. I think that was like probably the biggest chunk of that personal growth period that really made a difference.
Nice. Yeah. No, I remember you talking about that a lot. And, I think the focusing on things that you want is important, because I know that you have a number of different systems you've tried and used, and pretty regimented, I guess, way that you do that, maintain that focus continuously. So could you talk about it all? Like, would you mind sharing, are there any aspects you can share about how you do that practically in your life? Like continue to maintain that focus. I know, I remember you talking about like morning routines one time.
Yeah. Real quick, I think to sum up all of what I just said, those 2 years, it's almost like if you want to run a successful business, and this is actually like something that I've really like came to terms with recently, like around whenever we were in Denver and everything, and like actually seeing Carter good, because Carter definitely got started a little bit ahead of us and put in so much work, tremendous effort, built a huge following on Instagram, has, a successful coaching business and everything. What that main secret is, like, he didn't have any special secrets or any like formulas or anything. Of course, he had some knowledge of marketing and everything, but it was really just that consistency over and over again, day after day. And that's what created those results. So how I like to look at things, it's almost like if you want to be in a particular spot or position, you have to learn the skills and stuff to get there. And it's not, and what I was saying, what I meant by like realizing that in just a few months of what it like actually takes, it does take a little bit of time. Of course, maybe very long or maybe like even quicker, but it's almost like if you don't have the skills or you're not like getting skin in the game, awesome book, Austin Floyd recommended me. It's like, it's amazing because you have to almost have skin in the game to be able to get to where you want to go, if that makes sense. So it's almost like being able to have those 2 years and really focus on developing myself, developing the marketing skills, and then even more so in my space of fitness, it's like, learning more about nutrition and the body and everything like that. So I'm able to like play on that higher level essentially. So it's like with all that building and all that knowledge, and then with that, developing yourself in that vein, and then also putting in the consistency every single day builds that competence to get you that confidence and then kind of moving forward. So it's almost like, I think both can be done at the same time, if that makes sense. But I think that 2 year period down there, obviously learning a ton of marketing, working with, that company with Kino Body and Truth Nutra, it's like learning all those skills and now applying all those skills. It's almost like, okay, I'm developed mentally and physically, like with the knowledge. Now it's all just putting in the time and consistency, if that makes sense. So it's almost like building the two, like developing yourself, developing the marketing skills, and developing your craft more, whatever you're trying to teach, whatever you're trying to do. So then all of a sudden it's also putting that time and showing up every single day. And I think those together, that's where the magic starts to happen, essentially.
Yeah. No, that makes sense, man. That makes sense.
And then you just asked on maintaining the focus. Specifically, what was it? My apologies. I forgot.
Oh, it's all good. Yeah. I mean, how do you do that practically? Because I know you've mentioned to me your morning routine a couple of times. Is it just that, or are there other ways that you keep your goals and priorities like in focus every day?
Right now, it's definitely more in like the grind mode, essentially, like where almost every, like the different areas of my life are kind of put on like quote unquote maintenance mode, as in like, I put in the time to build up my body and everything like that, but now it's easier to maintain that. Right. So obviously I'm still maintaining my health and fitness. I mean, I should obviously, right? I can't try to teach fitness stuff if my health is getting all out of whack. But like, like that would just be completely bad. So putting other things on maintenance essentially, and then focusing more on like grinding and getting the business built and everything. But I think my most important thing is, at least, because obviously like you're trying to squeeze in so many things in your day, and but I think we're so good at draining our batteries, we don't take the time to recharge our batteries too. And what I've also found is that if you take that little bit of effort to relax and rest and make sure like your health is still in check, not like in like a crazy intense way, but like just to make sure that your health markers are good, you can focus more and actually do more productive work growing your brand or business. But so essentially, to answer your question, I like to at least have the first hour of my day and the last hour of my day completely like just me time, like 100%. And then like within like no work or anything like that. And typically like no other, like even calling like family or anything, is like just me. For example, like I'll go in my room. And so for example, like waking up in the morning, favorite thing is make a joke, the elixir of life. That's what we call it. But essentially it's just like 12 ounces of, sparkling water or natural spring water. With a little, have you heard of this yet? Did Austin tell you about it?
No. I don't think so.
Yeah. So we just mess around, called the elixir of life. And so 12 ounces of sparkling water, because it has, the natural occurring like minerals and stuff. And then like a pinch of sea salt. Everyone's, ripping on salt, but you actually need that sodium to hydrate your cells. Then maybe you can add in like a fourth a squeeze lemon, fourth squeeze lime. and maybe even like a little apple cider vinegar as like a bonus or whatever, and have that first thing in the morning just to kind of hydrate myself and get my mind right. Cause I found that like, even if you wake up like maybe like feeling like a little tired or feel like you have brain fog, typically it might be like a sign of like a little bit of like dehydration, because like while you're sleeping, your body is still going through those processes and just running still and using up water and everything and all that, you know. So you hydrate yourself, get your mind right and everything like that. And they usually like to do like some kind of movement, not like maybe like not any more intense than yoga, essentially just to get moving, just to wake up. If it's a nice day out, I try to get outside in the sun, or at least just to wake up essentially. And then I like to meditate for at least anywhere from like 10 to 30 minutes, just depending on like what the day is going on. So it is like just flexible in that sense of, maybe I might not have like a full, like sometimes it might go into like hour and a half and I'm like easing into the morning or whatever, but anywhere from like 10 to 30 minutes of meditation. And then, I like to do this. Have you ever heard of dry brushing?
No.
Literally like, it's almost like a bristle brush that sometimes I use like for my beard or whatever, but they're on like big brushes or whatever, and you literally just like brush your skin. It helps like get rid of like dead skin cells. Yeah,
that's
yeah.
Interesting.
So, like you start at your toes and work all the way up. It helps get rid of like dead skin cells and like help like rejuvenate your skin, but also like flush out your lymph nodes and all that stuff too. And that also helps wake me up. And then usually after that, just hop in the shower, and then I'm pretty much ready to start my day. I can go make my coffee and all that stuff. But like at least, and then like the type of meditation I do, usually guided or unguided. Like I really like, I recently started trying the 6-phase meditation from Mind Valley. Have you ever heard of it?
I've heard of Mind Valley. I haven't heard of their 6-phase meditation.
Yeah. Oh gosh, I forget the guy who either like recorded it or whatever. I think, oh gosh, the name is it's slipping me right now, but it's awesome because it's almost going through like just a bit of this, like checking in with your body, focusing on your breath, and then also tying into just like what your gratitude, and then tying into like what you imagine your life like. I think he uses 3 years from now. Sometimes it might get like a little trippy, so you can do like a year or like, you know, a week or a month or something like that. But then focusing in on like where you want your life to go, like what you're actually trying to accomplish, like reconnecting with those daily goals during that meditation. And then after that, just like wrapping things up, you know, getting ready for your day. And then after that, like it's always, that's why I find meditation so powerful, because you can always, even if you wake up in like an off state, you can sink into something. Even if you have to switch up the meditation, if you're not feeling like a long one or a shorter one, whatever, you can always like at least come back to gratitude, ground yourself, and just get focused on what you need to do for that day, essentially. So I like to have like a combination of like almost that meditation to get my mind right, to quiet down those negative thoughts, but then also add in something along the lines of knowing what I'm going to do and what I want to accomplish and how I want my day to look. And then that helps me just get my mind in the right place. I think another big strategy is not opening my phone. Like my phone's on airplane mode. Like I'll have my alarm go off, but I keep it on airplane mode until that hour roughly is up. I usually wake up around 6 a.m. So like my phone will not be on until 7 a.m. And sometimes that might be like a little, like you might have something going on. So like obviously every situation is different, but I almost found that like if I can't give myself at least like an hour in the morning and an hour at night with like any distractions, it's like, do I have to like kind of rethink of what I'm doing? Essentially, you know what I mean? It's like, I feel like if you can't give yourself like any like that kind of personal time, I think naturally I'm somebody who needs to be alone, to kind of like more introverted in the sense that needs to gain my energy and collect my thoughts like away from people, so I can hop back into the madness and deal with everything essentially.
Totally.
So if I can't give myself like that hour, I like to keep my phone off, and just like I can like just get my head right with meditation, and then like just know what I'm going to do today, just like focus on dry brushing, doing all that weird stuff, elixir life, and then I can around like 7 I can hop into the day, like focus, and like if something crazy comes up or like my website goes down or something weird, it's like, okay, I can handle it without getting all stressed out and things of that nature. If all that makes that answers your question.
No, that totally does. That totally does. I think that's great. I'm consistent with mornings, but I'm so bad about the evening. And that's like, I think that's so important, because it's like prepping for your next day. If you don't like hit the evening right and get good sleep, which is that really prepares you for it, man.
Yes.
That's good. Do you do the same thing in the evening? Is it like pretty similar?
Almost. Yeah. I was really going to be like, I didn't want to leave it the evening, but I will agree. The evenings are always a little less predictable, except for one thing. And that is like the one thing where like, if it's going to make me stay up like 10 minutes past the time I had an idea of going to sleep, I'll do it. And that's planning the day for the following the day. Planning the next day. That sounded weird whenever I said it, but plan next day, just because that's like, that's the main thing of like, okay. And reflecting on the current day as well. Because it's like, here's what I got done. And usually the things, like the 5 things that I had planned out, only 3 of them get done. So it's like, well, do those 2 things need to become first on the next day to actually get them done? Or do I just keep doing like a similar of the 3 things? Which that's what it's been lately. It's like always that first thing is Instagram, for example, because like, I've seen traction. I was like, I got to keep that going. So it's like always going to be Instagram first, like pretty much no matter what, for example. So it's like always, that is like the most solid thing that will always be there. This is based on how busy the day is. Cause obviously I don't know if like things are like a little bit less busy in the evening, I'll call it a day. And then like, maybe just get into like some reading for a little bit, just relax, make some tea or something like that. Like, put on my pink salt lamp or something like that, get the chill, and actually like, kind of like to rest and like de-stress and like not, and similar. Yes. In the evening, about an hour or so, maybe like 30 minutes. Cause obviously like the evening a little bit more lenient. I try to like get off the phone, you know what I mean? Like, because I found I think another thing that also answers your question about like staying focused is, and also related to like keeping your health right. It doesn't necessarily matter like how long you sleep, essentially. You'll see where I'm going with this in a minute. It matters what you do during those waking hours. Because, the whole saying of like, we only have 24 hours in a day, we have to make the most of the time we're awake. So it's like, I found that like still sleeping right, you can still get in a very, very effective workday if you focus on the right things. So it's like, so then going back to the example, instead of winding down and let's say like it is that hour, I could be scrolling on my Instagram feed, looking at stuff. Maybe, sometimes I feel like I should maybe look at other, like, I don't know, other people in the space and just like keep up to date with some of that. But usually like I found that like the scrolling through the feed isn't going to be any benefit for me or any social media or any like distraction of that sort. I think the most important thing is like, could I actually just be like reading and like resting and like kind of getting my mind right, reflecting on the day, see where I want to go tomorrow, like getting back like in line with my goals instead of like, because we all do it. Like I'm always guilty of like maybe always looking at somebody like maybe like more successful than myself or something like that, getting caught up in all that noise where like that's always going to happen. There's always going to be someone above you, below you, all that sort. So just like making sure that all my waking hours, like just focus on what I'm trying to accomplish. So like instead of scrolling through the feed, for example, like putting that phone on airplane mode for the night, getting my alarm set, and then reading, reflecting, journaling a bit, and planning my next day typically. But again, that evening can vary just depending on like if it's the weekend or like something of that sort or like a busy day, something like that. But usually I try to, the main thing though is always reflecting on the day and then planning the next day for sure.
Okay. That's awesome. No, the reflecting on the day too I think that's a great way to wind down. Just get relaxed in general. So I have a few more questions about your business and how you started.
Yeah, of course.
I want to go back to one thing though before we move on to technical stuff with the business. Like you mentioned, you kind of always had this like entrepreneurial bent where you knew you wanted to do something like that. What was it like growing up in Pittsburgh? Was there anything else you did? I mean, you mentioned the lawn mowing business, but was there anything else you did that kind of like led you to this path or?
Yeah. So on top of the lawnmower things, it's I got involved more of like the multi-level marketing, like the MLM.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Oh yeah.
And, man, there's all kinds of nasty comments about them, and like obviously most of them, pyramid schemes, all that bull crap.
Yeah, everything.
And obviously everybody in there will convince you that it's not, and all that thing. It just, I think a general comment to it's not a business model that I would ever want to get involved in again, ever.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? The whole like, oh, if you sign up 3 people.
What company did you work for? I can't picture this.
Yeah. I'm going to get to that in a minute. But it's just like, the whole thing, it's just like, that was too much. So like after like the grass cutting, I think that was like, that sparked it, that pushed it. And knowing that like school and that whole college route wasn't for me, before I started GTM Fitness, I completely I probably just pushed that away. I completely forgot about that in the past. So you brought that up, or asked.
Glad we dug that up.
Yeah, exactly. Just lifting up that stone. There it is.
Yeah.
So right after that, the first one I did was Motor Club of America. And I almost, I don't want to like promote these damn names on there because, oh damn, they're just, the companies are so whack. This was essentially, like, you know the AAA car insurance thing, you know, like right down the highway, you call up AAA. Essentially, it was like a company like that. And it got to a point where I almost felt guilty that I was like getting people to like sign up for this stuff because I don't know if they're going to help them. Like what if they actually break down?
You like don't even know if the service is real.
Yeah, exactly. It was all that. And awesome. I think that was, and honestly, like those things helped build my skills because like obviously getting into this and going back into like that 2 year of like that growth. Yeah. Oh my God. It was getting bad.
Dude, I did mixed level marketing for like a few days in college. It's hilarious, dude.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just like, but again, like there were some lessons in there. Like obviously the lessons, one, it's like those are terrible business models, but like two, that helped me start to develop the skill of selling and like listening to people and seeing like where they're struggling with and, you know, attaching those benefits and like all that selling stuff. And, I only got like, I think two or three like people under me essentially. And then they were getting more people under me for like a little bit. And you know how the whole freaking pyramid works.
Downline works. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But then I kind of got scared because like the people under me that was signing on more people, they were asking me like how to like do more of it, like how to sell and all the marketing behind it. And I was like, I don't know. Like, I just like,
I was hoping you guys knew that.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, I guess I don't know if I got lucky, which is also maybe a thing of a little lesson of like actually like taking that risk because you don't know what you're going to get until you do it. Essentially because like, you know, I was pretty much cold calling numbers that I was finding online because I saw this one guy doing it who signed me up and he was like, here's a list of numbers to start calling. And I was like, okay. Like if you imagine like how old was I at the time? It was like 16 years old calling these people up, telling them about this opportunity to make money. Like, yeah, I was one of those assholes for a little bit, you know, calling me like, how'd you get this number? Like calling me, you know? And it worked with a couple people, but so then right after that, I was still in it, but have you ever heard of the company Vemma or Verve?
No. What do they sell?
Verve, the energy drink. Well, no, not like what.
Yeah, I think I've heard of Verve. Yeah.
Yeah, I think they just got shut down by the government for being a pyramid scheme or something like that. But I got into that because I guess whoever started that, I guess was smart and dove into like the college scene with all the Verve energy drinks and all that stuff. So that got popular in like a different way where I saw that I didn't have to essentially cold call people, but you know, the whole thing of like, we'll host like meetings at people's houses. We'll have all the energy drinks there. We'll hype them up about this thing. And then, hey, like, do you want to be involved in this? Do you want to make money too? Like that whole like nasty script. And so I was pushing the energy drinks for a little bit. And that actually, it got very big in like my area and like high school and everything. And I was like one of like the top guys like in my high school. But then one of the guys like was trying to essentially like maybe rush the success because the company had these weird tier systems where if you hit a certain number of income a month, they give you the money to like rent a BMW or Benz or
oh my God, that's hilarious.
What's the other one in that kind of?
That's
Bentley?
Awesome, man.
Yeah, Beamer, Benz, or Bentley. I bet they got that from that song. You ever hear that rap song?
Yes.
Yeah. But yeah, so I don't know if they got
That's
the idea.
Ridiculous.
Maybe I just made that up. But yeah, so if you hit a certain tier, you get that car. And so the one kid like leased the car, like, and he wasn't even close to hitting that tier to try to act like he hit that tier to try to sell more. I guess it kind of makes sense, but it's like really, really faking it to try to make it on that one.
Yeah.
And what happened was, I think he started, and this is going to sound so funny, but this guy literally started like this one kid didn't sign up whenever he was trying to get this guy to sign up. And all of a sudden he immediately started like just ripping on his girlfriend, like just like saying she's ugly, she's a troll. All this shit. Like, I'm serious. Like this is a small little thing that I believe. I thought about this a lot just for kicks, you know, fun and giggles, whatever. And I think that one little trickle caused this girl to like tweet about like, oh, this company's a fucking joke, and like had screenshots of like the text messages of him like calling her a troll. And it literally like divided the groups of like everyone that was in this stupid company and everyone that wasn't in high school. And again, like I'm 17 at the time.
That's crazy.
And everyone was hating on it. And I was like, you know what? Like, obviously this isn't something for like a long-term business or whatever. And this isn't like a business model that I feel good about like doing. So it was like, I was definitely out of that. But then also like circling around to, that's where I kind of had negative thoughts a little bit about doing the whole, like starting my own business. And that's actually along with getting more involved in fitness, after I kind of like picked myself out of that depression a little bit, fitness kind of took the back burner because I got more involved in these companies. And then whenever I was like, got really turned off and like did not see any success with those, pushed those aside, got back into fitness, and then I entered the transformation challenge for Kino Body, and I won first place. I completely forgot about that too. So I'm glad we're circling around here, the whole story arc, all these open loops going on.
Yeah.
So I hope that keeps everyone listening. Maybe I'm dropping these open loops in here. But so it's like, so with Kino Body, I won that transformation contest, first place, and I won $1,000. And that almost re-sparked that, like, oh shit, how does this like, and Kino Body was very, very small at the time. Like I think Greg O'Gallagher had roughly like 5,000 Instagram followers, like 3,000 to 5,000, if I remember correctly. And, or maybe a little bit more, maybe around like 20,000, but it was definitely in those very, very early stages. And I won that first place. I was like, how does this website have $1,000 to give me? And that's whenever I started reaching out to Tom Ness and then Christopher Walker, and they were starting to give me a little bit of advice. That led to GTM Fitness. And then, and then obviously that led to Florida and everything of that sort. So was that your question? Yeah. So like, what did I get involved before that? Yeah, it was those two. Like,
I don't even remember that. That was good though.
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
it
was the whole thing coming around that before, like the first thing I got involved with.
It was just like back in the day. That was basically my question. Like, what else led you to it? And that huge mixed level marketing debacle, definitely, I can see that.
Yeah. So that was like almost the first thing that was still like my mindset of like having my own business was there. And I think that started from like the simple thing, like on Google, like how to make money online or like how to run your own business. And then that kind of like started to get me thinking in those ways, which then obviously people back then, it was so much easier to rank websites on Google. So like whenever I would Google those sorts of things, that's what led me to those multi-level marketing things, essentially. Yeah. So that's how I got all caught up in that for a little bit. But then that was like almost the early days of Pittsburgh. But like, yeah, I don't know how far back you want to take it, because before all like the business stuff, it was pretty much cutting grass and going down to the skate park. I used to skateboard and rollerblade a lot.
Nice. Yeah.
Skate park. Yeah. And then it kind of turned into, business essentially.
No, that's good, man. That's good. It's a long evolution. Like been at it, taking a bunch of swings, been at it, just cracking at it for a long time.
I think that's another like mindset kind of thing that I helped internalize in those 2 years. Cause I think I can speak for Austin and Tim, those 2 years with all that growth, it really helped build the skills and internalize some things. And one being that, just a favorite, like not looking at failures, but almost just looking at them as lessons. Like, okay, like don't do this anymore because it's not getting you the result that you want, but knowing that it's good that you actually follow through with it, because you also need to build that consistency, being able to like follow through with things. I think that's the biggest thing that helped me. So it's in that, even like with fitness too, it's like back in the day, it's like, following like essentially just like the if it fits your macros approach. I went too extreme with that and I was eating way too much junk food. And like, sure, I got like, I built some muscle, I had the 6-pack going. My health wasn't there. I had digestive issues, brain fog, trouble sleeping, all that sort. So I was like, okay, well, maybe I do have to actually focus on like nutrition and actually care about the quality of food that I'm eating, essentially. Yeah.
No, that makes sense. That makes sense though. But yeah, even through that, the consistency, you still learn those lessons of just sticking to something.
Yes, exactly. And then making either keep doing that thing or now knowing with what you got to either make a switch or something like that.
Yeah, oh, definitely. So me and Trent share a buddy, Austin, who's another marketer. He has a website, heightenedliving.com. And, we were talking about some people we're working with, and we were talking a little bit about your stuff. And I know that you're really heavy on the consulting right now, like getting clients, helping them out over the phone and email. Yes. What other business models do you plan on using? Do you plan on just going big with the consulting model? How are you trying to grow TrentMcCloskey.com?
I think essentially, this almost comes back to like what I'm trying to build, essentially. And thinking about it, like at first, the idea of like a lifestyle business is very appealing. But I realized that I think I really want to go hard and build something big, like build a big company, like some of the bigger brands, like Legion or Onnit, something of that nature. I'm not saying supplements, but something as big and like reputable as that in building this personal brand, whether it be like Trent McCloskey or like that I am essentially the figure or brand that built this other fitness brand, if that makes sense. So I think in the short term right now, my goal is obviously getting more coaching clients, and then definitely doing some digital programs, but more so like making sure they're built out like with videos and like the whole downloadable, like more so like also PDF, but also like video, more interactive, things of that nature. But using the survey funnel formula, Ryan Levesque, that's a big one. Not giving out like any like marketing secrets of like Keynote Body, but they have the survey, they kind of run that a little bit. And that's very effective, I think, just because, you get the person engaged initially on like what they're actually trying to achieve, and it helps them, it's more interactive, and it feels like they're actually like contributing to something, like actually getting heard of like what they're trying to accomplish. And then that dictate them to like what is the best solution. So essentially, I think in my short term, doing like a survey funnel to where they're asking questions, and like on the last question of like whatever results they're trying to achieve, it's like hitting that issue of whether they need more one-on-one coaching, more consistency, more accountability, or they just need the right program. So either going to coaching, and that will funnel into hopping on a phone call with me, or funneling into maybe a tripwire, and then to the programs essentially.
Oh, off like a survey funnel.
Yeah.
Huh. Mm-hmm. That's interesting. You said it was Ryan Levesque.
Yeah. I think he's the first that came up with the survey funnel formula, essentially.
Nice.
That's the whole program on it, essentially, which is, survey to either like consulting, like a phone call, or to a program, or like to a tripwire and then to a program. And then if they don't buy from there, hitting them with retargeting ads, and then also like non-buyer email sequences as well. Like to walk them through, and then like, hey, here's a discount, so-and-so, like if, but like that whole kind of thing. So that's pretty much like the formula and strategy I want to roll out moving forward in the short term, like in the next like 3 to 4 months, essentially.
Oh, wow. Dude, I'll have to check his stuff out. That's interesting. I know Austin talks about the surveys all the time. So.
Yeah. It's just such a great way to get people like engaged. I think before like, hey, just buy this program. It's like, well, that survey helps them like feel like they're being listened to in a sense, in a good way too, like, okay, like here's what I'm really trying to achieve. And then you can actually, it just helps both of the people, both parties, because, you can give them exactly.
You get killer feedback on your audience.
Yeah, exactly. It's like you can give them exactly what you need, and you're gathering so much data from your survey as well for your own benefit to either tweak something in the marketing or tweak something of the sort. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So I know you've been working. I just have a couple more questions to you about.
Yeah, of course. We can
respectful of your time.
No, dude, we can jam all day, man.
Yeah, we probably could. So I know that you've been working a little bit. You and Carter Good, you've developed some sort of underground marketing bunker where you guys just live and just do marketing activities. So you guys are living together now.
Yeah.
How has that helped you or hurt you in your quest for like online success? Are you working with Carter a lot? Are you not working with him?
It's so beautiful because like, we're in the same fitness space, but I feel like we're definitely teaching different messages and speaking to different audiences. Whereas in maybe to shorten up, like he's maybe teaching the people that are a little bit more overweight and they need help just like initially building those habits to actually just like lose those first 50 pounds to get to a good place. Whereas I feel like I am speaking to more of the audience where they're still struggling to get that last 20 pounds off. And it's like, well, okay, well, what situation are like you in right now? Because it might mean something that your health is off. So like, let's look at like the food you're eating or like what kind of training you're doing, that sort of thing. So with that said, it's not like we're in direct competition with each other. So it's not like it's a competing thing. It's more of an encouraging thing because we're both literally almost doing the same thing every single day. So it's very encouraging because there's always going to be those days where you have doubt, your fear, like you feel like you're not good enough, like all those things still come up day to day. So having somebody do the same thing with you every single day, it's so easy to block out that noise, block out all those negative thoughts, and we can just go forward and just keep doing what we're doing and everything like that. So I think having somebody that's doing something similar and like just creating that environment where like, and that's why we like Columbus, Ohio so much, like the short north, because it's like the strip has everything we need, from restaurants to grocery stores to, great coffee shops. Like there's 4 awesome ones that we always like rotate, like in the morning.
Yes.
We got our
you guys are all about it.
Exactly. We got our morning 2, we have like our afternoon 2, and it's like, we just rotate them out. So it's always good to, switch up the spots, but it's like, I think it's very helpful because you can always bounce around ideas. You can always share strategies and things of that nature. So having that kind of environment, it's awesome. It's awesome. Because like being by yourself, it can get it's very tough. And it's like, obviously, like whenever I was by myself, like working out of Pittsburgh for a little bit, like I'm always like listening to podcasts and things of that nature to almost like kind of hang out.
Yeah, I've definitely. You know what I mean? Yeah.
I mean, even though, and then whenever you realize you're still in your room all alone, it gets a little. But
like,
again,
oh God.
it's still something. So like this now creating that like with him and being in that same environment, it's very powerful because we're both, you know, same mindset, and doing similar things. So we can always like bounce strategies off each other, essentially.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. That's awesome. I still got to come out there. I know me and Austin, I think next time he comes out, I'll probably.
Yeah. Both of you. Oh my gosh, dude. Oh, it'll be so fun. So fun.
Yeah, it'll be fun. Just working. Just work all day.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's see. So, yeah. Okay. A couple more specifics for people. So, if you think like, if you had to say, what do you think would be the number one thing that's allowed you to have, you know, the success you had working with Kinobody, and then now, you know, starting quick? I heard you got 15 clients in your first month. That's pretty good, man. So
yeah.
What do you think the number one thing that's allowed you at this point in your life to have that success?
Well, I think it wasn't, in my first month, and basically everything we talked about on the podcast, it was the first month of starting TrentMcCloskey.com. But what I think is so important to keep in mind, it wasn't the first month of doing all of this stuff. So I really like to look back, and like we can even go all the way back to like those weird pyramid schemes. You know what I mean? It's like all those companies, because that's what started the ball rolling. Like I was crawling back then, and then I was walking during the time of like, you know, starting GTM Fitness, and then going down to Florida, and then maybe picking up like a light jog through those 2 years, and even more personal development and all that stuff. And then finally coming out of those 2 years, learning so much about myself, and improve my health, and then marketing, all of that sort of every area improving there. Now, finally coming out of those 2 years, I feel like I'm running now, and all I have to do now is apply everything I know, essentially. So there is, I think, so much importance in actually like learning the skills that you need to learn to get to where you want to go, essentially. And like I mentioned earlier, I think you can do that at the same time as you begin your business quest. So it's like, I don't like to say like, oh, you can just start a business in a month and start making money, because I don't think that's too ideal, unless like you got something like insane, like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just not, I never want to have that mindset of like overnight results. And maybe that was from just being disciplined in fitness, because, you know, you're not going to hop on a program and get completely shredded in 3 months. Like, it will take time, especially if someone is like just getting started. It might take years. Like, that's another thing too. Like, people might see like the 6-pack on Instagram, but then realize I've been lifting for almost 10 years, essentially. You know what I mean? Or like getting in that for almost 10 years. So it's like, I've been putting in so much work, and I did so many things that failed. So it's obviously like you fail a lot of times, and then you learn what works. So going back to that, I think it's just building the skills and learning, and not being afraid to fail, I think. But also like just trusting that you're having faith in the direction you're moving, and just showing up every day. I think that's mainly the main thing, because like you won't know until you try, essentially. And that's so much, it's easier said than done, but because you can get so paralyzed by fear. And I think this is actually a big weakness of mine, where if I want to start a new project, I'm definitely not in that like quick start mentality. I'm more of like, I need to have all the facts laid out. And then once I feel comfortable that I have like the best knowledge of whatever it is, then I can finally move forward. But that can really lead me into a lot of procrastination on like research and making sure it's perfect and all that. So I have to be mindful of that, so I can actually get the ball rolling, because I found that after the ball is rolling, I can look back and like, oh, okay, I don't like how that is. I can tweak it. For example, like if I'm writing, I don't know, let's just say if I'm writing like an email course or something like that, and I'm like, oh, like I want this to be on this day and that to be on that day, and I don't know, maybe I'll switch it. I can do that all freaking day, as opposed to like probably have a good idea of what I want it to look like, and I can just get started, and then I can look back and, oh, that doesn't make sense. Like, what the hell was I thinking? And then I can tweak it, because there's already a base of something there, and it's so much easier to go back and tweak something really quick, or swap something, and then continue moving forward. And obviously that's just like a small example, but I think it applies to even things on bigger scales. Whereas you just like getting the ball rolling and going, and just like walking before you run, essentially. And I think at the same time, though, also in that question, in the first month, I started to build up a bit of a reputation in the fitness space from working with Kinobody as well. So it's like, I still get people like, hey, like I saw you on Kino Body, like it's so awesome you're doing your own thing now. So I kind of like already had that little bit of a fan base, but that was still being built over the course of 2 years. Obviously I wasn't focusing on doing that. So in that sense, you can do it a lot faster with more focus, but it's like not to say that like a 1 month thing was huge. It was like everything was building upon each other. And then finally, I feel like I have a good base of marketing knowledge, fitness knowledge, and everything. I can combine all that and then start to play at that level and just showing up every day, essentially. If that little bit of a ramble makes sense.
No, it does. I mean, it'd be way harder. There's no way you could, start with the same speed you have now if you didn't have all that foundation built up over all the years.
Exactly. Because it's almost like now it's like I can whip up a website and have all that like in a day. You know what I mean? So it's like, but at the same time though, there were the nights where I was starting GTN Fitness and I was on HostGator web hosting support for hours trying to figure out how to like update something. Like update a theme, and like those hours that went into like something so silly and just getting stressed over those little things. Now it's like, okay, I can do that. So it's like all those little things build, and you almost just have to start somewhere and then just, keep going essentially. Especially if you're starting out by yourself. I think just learning a little bit of everything in those skills, and like it will be stressful at those times, but before you know it, like those will be more like second nature, and then like you just keep moving forward essentially.
Nice. Yeah. I like the part about just taking action too, because it's like you never get that feedback until you start moving in a direction.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's seriously, even to this day, even after all these years, it's like, that's what I think is really becoming like apparent to me, with like producing content in a sense. Obviously like making sure that it's up to like the standard you want it to be, but like just really just showing up every day and just working towards it, and trying to focus on the most important things of your day, and just keep executing on them, and then see like the results you get essentially. Yeah.
No, that totally makes sense. So like you got into a little bit right there, but what would be your main piece of advice to, if someone's trying to start their first company, or even more specifically, if someone's trying to do what you're doing and be a fitness consultant, either of those groups, what would be your main advice to those people?
I would say first, find what you're really good at. So for example, we touched on this in the beginning of how somehow I'm making these graphics look good for Instagram on my Instagram account. But that did come from modeling. So I think that's a really good thing of modeling in obviously like a good sense, not completely like copying word for word essentially, but obviously like modeling something until you start to see results, and then innovating on that and create something of your own. So obviously like Carter kind of pioneered the whole Instagram graphics. And I found that a strength of mine is like being able to, I guess, organize, especially in fitness, like of knowing those things, taking those big concepts and just really making them so simple, and then just like making the graphics look good. I found that I'm pretty good at that. So I want to stick with that strength and get my Instagram rolling in that way, because all those graphics are kind of blowing up now. So essentially like following that strength, I think, is very important. And then also becoming aware of like your weaknesses as well. And that would be maybe a good sense of maybe finding somebody to help you with those things, or outsourcing something like that on like Fiverr, or like, somebody that can help you with something like that. So yeah, I think going back to it, I think I already mentioned it for the first piece of advice is like, I think once you get clear on your intentions on like where you want to go, what you want to do, just take the plunge. I know it's a little scary, but I think I don't want to say that because every situation is different. I think it's like, take the plunge in the way that most makes sense for you. Because if you're having thoughts of starting your own business or anything of the sort, it's either for a reason, and you won't really know until you try. So it's like, if you are still working a job, you might be able to do something a little at night, for example, or, something of the sort. Any situation is different, but I think so. I guess like to cover it, not to say, just like stop everything you're doing now and do it, because obviously that's not relevant for everybody. But if someone is having those thoughts and someone is having the inspiration of doing that, I think also networking is a big one. I think I'm like a decent networker. I know Austin Floyd is like just insane, and you are too.
Insane.
It's like reaching out with your emails, like they're scripted. So we're not, I don't want to say
Austin's better. He's crazy, man. He knows everybody.
It's so good like that. So I think networking is huge too. Especially like in your field, like we're just reaching out to like, not even saying like going for like the super top people that are like in your field, but maybe like the more like people that, you know, like middle ground level, if that makes sense. Like just reaching out to them and just making friends, not necessarily like asking like, hey, can you like do this for me, but like showing them value, or like actually even like going through that's essentially almost like, okay, this is a great example to kind of say, you know, explain what I'm saying. Whenever I essentially with Kinobody, with their transformation, seeing like how they had a website and knowing that I kind of want to do something similar, it was almost like I was helping Kinobody by becoming a transformation for Kinobody. Because whenever I won first place and like I was like really set and really I was focused on that for 3 months straight, and like I truly believed it like down to my core. And during that time I even like got a job at a restaurant so I could get like free food, so I would have like almost the same meals every single day. So I would like I'm serious.
That's crazy. Yeah,
and like
so dedicated.
I did not miss a workout. I had like a couple weeks planned in advance of like what exercises, everything was so planned out. But what I'm saying is like I was giving value to Kinobody by becoming a transformation. So it was almost like that exchange where like if I asked a question, I'm like, you know, like how did you make money to give me for the transformation contest? They would be like, oh, well, we sell programs and this, and that started the conversation going, started the relationship going. So like reaching out in a sense of like, if maybe someone in your space has a product that you really like, writing a review for it, or, you know, trying it out or something of that. And like just giving that value and reaching out and building more people in the space, in that community. And that can start to help you gain insights on what they're doing to help you start your thing better as well.
Yeah. No, I think that's awesome, man. I think that's awesome because I think, you know, at the highest level, if you can find a problem and solve it yourself, that's great. But a lot of people might not have the skills to do that. And like, if you're not capable of doing that, finding other people that are already solving problems and just being creative a way that you can help them is so valuable still.
Yes. 100%.
You know?
Yes.
Somebody needs users to test something for them, or, you know, that's like a great one. That's perfect, man.
Exactly.
Love that. And I love also that you said another one. So reaching out to people in the middle of your field, maybe not at the top, but people that are accessible, like Kinobody was back in the day. The other one you said is you talked about, I forgot what word you used, but essentially reverse engineering other people's stuff, like seeing what works.
Oh, just
not copying.
Yeah.
Modeling.
Yeah.
Dude, that's come up with everyone. I've had designers that talk about going on Dribble and copying design from like the best designers in the world, like software engineers, you know, that all just this is like reverse engineering different code bases. Dude, everyone uses that. I swear that's been like the most talked about like strategy.
It is.
It's wild.
That's why I wanted to almost, and that comes down to like a little thing of like just wanting to maybe see if I could prove to myself that that's really a thing. And that's what I did like for the Instagram graphics, or even like the book covers that I make on some of like the old books or whatever I made. It's like you can look at like templates or look at other images of successful books and seeing like how they have things placed. Like maybe there's something there subconsciously that they did on purpose, maybe not, but it looks good and something's working. You know, you can use that to create something for your own too, and like use it as a template and then see what it works. And if it does, you can then innovate and then see if that you develop your own kind of style from that, essentially.
Yeah. No, it's so like, if you can translate the steps you're seeing into like your exact context, if you can do that in your field, like you're golden, like you'll be successful. I swear it's crazy, man.
Yeah, it really is.
I had a guy the other day who was he's like a dating coach, and he's got like, dude, this guy's got like 500,000 followers. And he said in the early days, he'd just be on all these other people, like just exactly like he talked about with Kinobody. He'd be going on all these people that were like the big dating coaches at the time and like just checking out their shit, like their funnels, you know, their sites, and like just throwing up something similar, you know, for his own brand with his own style and stuff. But
exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
100%, man. Yeah. It's crazy. It's usually the simple things, but then those simple things just need to be executed on a day by day basis, essentially. And then even whenever you feel like it's about to fail, you just keep doing a little bit more, and then you'll start to see the results kind of. Yeah.
Okay. Two questions. I had one, but now I have just one more. So now I have two.
Yeah.
So design, man, you're pretty good at design. You're doing a lot of design for Kinobody. I know our buddy Tom Ness was like the, you know, amazing savant designer for that company. But
yes, I gotta say, I learned so much from him. Like if it wasn't for Tom,
I'm so jealous. I wish I could learn from that guy.
It helped me really develop like the eye. And this also comes back, and sorry to interrupt it. Did I cut off your question?
No, dude, it's good.
It's
essentially just gonna get into your design thing.
Oh yeah, it's coming back to the modeling where like he helped me develop the eye for seeing what looks good. Because let me give a little example. Beaver Builder. I love using that for websites essentially. But with Beaver Builder, you're basically starting from complete scratch. So developing that eye, knowing that you can throw up a website on Beaver Builder and it will look terrible, but also knowing that you can also throw up a website and you can make it look really nice if you model like. So it's almost like if it's also knowing what you want to get and then reverse engineering it to get it, essentially. Because if you almost like whenever I was first learning out or like starting out, or even like because I built GTM Fitness all by myself too. I started with a theme and then I rebuilt it to try to look like a theme, and it looked absolutely like crap. But it's almost like knowing that something really nice can be created. You just have to almost like learn how to create it, essentially. So yes, reverse engineering. But another like example is even all the way down to things like the different colors, like different hex colors, for example. So like on a website, you might have like a let's just say like an all white. I think it's like hashtag 6Fs or whatever for that hex color code or whatever. At the same time, or like maybe like a color blue, for example. Like you could have the most standard color blue and it'll look tacky on a website page. But then you can get like a more in-depth color blue, but with like a different hex code that's slightly different, and it can make it look clean and crisp. Does that make sense? So it's almost like if you know where you're going, you can use the tools to make that happen. And I think that practice of over and over again helped me like develop my eye for knowing what I want to, knowing how I want things to look. And then that's how I can build it, essentially. If that answers the question. So it's like getting all the way down to the nitty gritty of like, oh, like what if I use a different font? It looks completely different. What if I use this different color that's very similar to a tacky color, but makes it look night and day difference, or things of that nature. And like all those very, very minor details, but then learning those certain things allows you to see like what the top people are doing, essentially. Because there's not to make that sound like there's like little like secret tricks or hacks, but there is, I think, a quality of content that needs to be kind of produced to hang around that level. Obviously, especially I think like with nowadays with technology, that like everything is becoming like so more like effective and efficient. It's like you can't put out a website that looks like it was created in like the 1980s. So like at the same time though, it's like if you don't have the time to maybe learn those skills, like you said earlier, it's like find somebody else who does know that, essentially. You know what I mean? It's like to get the look you're after. So I think, it's just a lot of modeling and like knowing that you can create something that looks good. You just have to find like the tweaks that get you there. Because like usually, so another good example to also answer that question, the graphics I post on Instagram, that's usually the third or fourth, maybe even the fifth draft. Like the final draft, like the first one will come up. I'll be like, wow, that's terrible. Maybe if I do this with the text or change these words or this graphic or this weird freaking cartoon, I put it there. It's like, oh, that looks better, but can I do it again? And then I'll do that again. And it looks so much better. Like usually all those, I use canva.com for all those graphics. But it's completely free. Like there is a paid thing, but you don't have to. I think like the paid only gives you like the ability to like have it memorize your colors if you want, or like the fonts you use. So it's not like really worth it.
They got to work on their paid offering.
I think it obviously it offers like more like graphics and things of that nature, but I also get those graphics for free on like other sites too. So it's like using a bunch of different things to, so it's like on all the graphics, you'll see like all those different drafts because the first one does not come out too hot. And then I was like, maybe I'll do it this way. Maybe I'll do it that way. And then I might even backtrack and use the second one. So now like I'm a lot faster of it, but it took me like literally hours now, like almost 4 or 5 hours a day to make those graphics. And especially starting out, like I had that time. I had that time essentially in the beginning. So it's like I could learn that now. I shorten that process because I have all the templates. I see what was getting like the most likes and all that stuff. So I can like make those similar templates. But it was all starting from something. And like even if you look back to the early graphics I was making compared to the newer ones, you'll notice like a slight difference, and those newer ones are getting more traction essentially. So it's all about just just doing it and doing it and doing it.
Those things take so much time, man.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. So my last question is, it's the easy one. Is there anything that I did not ask you that I should have?
Oh, damn. That's a really good question to ask at the end of a podcast.
Thank you.
Wow. I need to take a moment to ponder this for a second.
Catch your breath.
I know. I know. I've been just like chirping over here. I was just listening to Austin, and he had on another guy in the health and fitness space, Brad Pilon. Are you familiar with him?
Oh yeah, man, he's huge.
They were talking about
Eat Stop.
Yes. They were talking about carbon dioxide in the rooms and everything, and how that's like you got to at least like have like a window cracked, because like you're in a room, you're sitting inside all day, and those higher levels of CO2 and less oxygen causing like a lot of health issues and all that stuff too.
Shit, I'm in an apartment, dude. I'm probably gonna kill myself in here. Oh.
I know. I gotta crack my window. I'm probably after this gonna step outside and all that stuff. But I think, I mean, usually I don't want to go like with the generic like about books or anything like that. But there was no book topic up there. I think I'm trying to think of now. I open up another loop of like my favorite books that I've read. I like Anti-Fragile. That's a good one. Just basically on how like things that gain from disorder, and kind of it's also like developing that mindset of pushing your comfort zone a little bit, but also becoming aware of like how much you can push yourself and like knowing your limits, but also like not being afraid to like dive into that unknown, because you can come back a little bit stronger, and you can learn from, whether it be if a failure or success, you can learn from that. Damn, I'm really trying to. We will think of something. So I'm going to
stall a little bit. Yeah. I like Anti-Fragile too. We can just like go with that, dude. I mean, your life, you've done a million different things, and you've enhanced your capabilities at each step through the chaos. So you're kind of like the story of Anti-Fragile, dude. We could just
a little bit. Yeah.
You've benefited from each step of chaos. No, I mean, usually people would just recommend, like, if there's anything that I guess stands out to you as like probably your biggest lesson learned, I guess, because you've done a lot of stuff maybe people aren't fortunate enough to do. There's a lot of people out there who didn't drop out of college. They're in a job right now. They don't want to be. They see a guy like you and they're like, shit, you know what? Why didn't I fucking drop out of college 5 years ago? Why the hell am I here right now? Like, what lessons did you get maybe that some people haven't had the benefit of getting? What has been the biggest lesson for you? Let's do that, because that's a little more straightforward.
The biggest, I started to have something whenever you were starting to talk, my idea was starting to pop up. I think one thing to always keep in mind is don't lose sight. And this is kind of like that whole gaining success thing. Almost going back, if you're in the position of starting something, attaching to those reasons why, like, why do you want to do something? It might be to build like a huge legacy. It might just be to, just like make more money or like support your family or something like that. Staying in touch with those reasons why, especially while you're building something, I feel like that's something that I want to make sure that I maintain the relationships with my friends and family, because I have been like very busy lately, and obviously not living from like my hometown and things of that nature. And, like sometimes it's like meeting up with old friends or meeting up with, friends and family gets a little bit difficult, because it's just like, there's just the time and a little bit of sacrifice that comes involved. So I think one thing that I'm always just like aware of and trying to do my best with is like staying in touch with those family members and friends along the way, just like to keep those relationships built too, because it comes back to like why you're doing this and like what kind of life you want to create, because you don't want to just like work yourself into the ground and not experience life, because like obviously there is that hustle involved too, but I think there is that balance of like, you want to create new experiences for yourself, and you might regret like not doing that fun thing that might have only taken up a day of your time or a couple of days of your time. And then you can get back into your hustle and grind instead of missing that opportunity and then regretting that later. So I think like that's one of the things that I'm always going to keep in mind during this, because it's like, I want to make sure that I'm living the best life I can be, and also embarking on the journey of things I want to build and things I want to pursue, but also just making sure that I'm enjoying the little things in life as well. I think that's a big takeaway for me so far.
Nice, dude. I love that one. Why has been a huge one too. That was that actually the guy with 500,000 followers. That's exactly what he said for this question. He's like, you have to, no matter what, remember the why.
Oh yes. Dude. Oh yeah. That's huge. And I think getting very clear on your intentions too, because that helps you with the slip ups and the off days and like the fear of self-doubt or think you're not good enough and all those things, because I think it's human, you know what I mean? And, so I think also along with that reason why is, I think, okay, so one thing you kind of already asked me, but I think just also not neglecting personal development and self-development, even, even if just like a little bit of time each day, just like maybe just reflecting and seeing how you feel, checking in with yourself, kind of like more of like the spiritual side of things, but not even in that sense, just to make sure that you're happy with what you're doing, essentially. Because I think that's important too, because if you're happy with what you're doing and you're enjoying what you're doing, of course there are going to be challenges, of course there are going to be stresses, but at the end of the day, if you're happy, you're still on that path, then I think that's a win, essentially.